They attack black people after they've been murdered when they did absolutely nothing wrong. You're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. And so don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers of the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages. They snatched babies and they sold them as property and they raped their mothers. Savages. That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes?
All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwat, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwat is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasher Allah is Israel in ancient Paleo Hebrew. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. And it reads, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." All right, and I want to go into a lesson inspired by the clip that you just saw of a gentleman named Cink, CENK, from the YouTube channel Young Turks. All right, and he made a very powerful statement, if you will. And I want to go into how that relates to prophecy, because a part of prophecy in these last days is that the son of perdition would be revealed. All right, and the son of perdition, contrary to what Christianity has placed out there, is not one single individual. All right, it's the wicked being revealed. All right, as a matter of fact, let's continue. This is 2 Thessalonians 2, and I'll jump down to verse 8, and it reads, "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders." All right, and that is, for those who don't know, the so-called white man. All right, not just the white Southern white right-wingers, as the Young Turk channel talked about, but it's the Edomites as a whole, the so-called white man as a whole. Now, again, you have Israelites that may look like so-called white people, but their lineage goes back to Israel. All right, but the nation, the so-called white man as a nation of people as a whole, all right, they go back to the nation of Edom. All right. Now, again, just as a caveat, skin color is an indicator, but it doesn't necessarily determine nationality. Your nationality is determined by the seed of your father. But the nation of Edom is the self-proclaimed white man today as a whole. They're not Germans. They're not Russians. They're not British. They're not American. They're not Canadian. They're not Australian. They're Edomites. All right. They're not Israelis. They're Edomites. And that wicked had to be revealed, and the wicked are being revealed. All right. And the reason that it's inspired by that clip is because, you know, what we know plainly, you know, has been covered with a covering cast concerning what the world has perceived the so-called white man to be. All right. They've looked at him as a beacon of light, but really they're the actual savages. All right. And this is why the scriptures talk about the joy of the hypocrite being for a moment. You know, Esau, the so-called white man, is able to get on CNN and Fox News and point fingers and determine that other nations of people are considered terrorists. All right. While being a terrorist himself, while being a terrorist to become the nation that he's become on the earth. And now that hypocrisy is being called out everywhere you turn, really. It is Isaiah 25:7. And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people and the veil that is spread over all nations. And this is beautiful because, this clip was an example. He pointed out the southern white right-wing Republicans in the South, were savages. Well, when you come back to the understanding of the scriptures, you understand that the so-called white man as a nation of people are the wicked. All right. It's not just the right, the Republican Edomites. It's also the Democratic Edomites. It's not just the American Edomites. It's also the Russian and the Australian and the British Edomites. As a nation of people, they are the wicked. And only when you come back to this understanding, beginning with our apostles and elders who have been proclaiming this for decades, do you get the proper understanding. All right. Because when you watch mainstream media, they'll talk about, the Americans, the West is doing all of this. They'll talk about Russia as if it's a single island somewhere off in the distance. But when you come back to this heritage, when you come back to the truth, all right, beginning with the mouth of the prophets, you get the proper understanding of really the whole worldview. All right. Matter of fact, let's go here. This is Amos 3 and verse 7. And it reads, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. Because when you go back to 2 Thessalonians, all right, you go back to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and you jump down to verse 7, it reads, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. All right. And that was Paul referencing the Roman Empire during his time, but of course he had to say things in a certain way because most of the disciples, the charge was basically sedition. Speaking against the Roman Empire during that time would get you put to death. So this is Paul basically speaking in code, so to speak, that mystery of iniquity. But now that wicked is being revealed. All right. And it's being revealed by the apostles and elders first and foremost, who the Lord has set up to speak this truth into the ends of the earth, if you will, via the internet, the unicorn. And now the world is being made privy to Esau, Edom. That term is being made public. It's being published out here through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. Because when you take away these labels of Russian, British, German, American, Australian, New Zealand, Canadian, when you take away those covering casts and you look at the so-called white man as a nation of people, you put all their crimes in one place, it becomes obvious that they are the wicked. And this is why the scriptures talk about the joy of the hypocrite, because what this guy from Young Turks was bringing out is that it's hypocritical for you to call the so-called Negro a savage. When really, when you look at what so-called Negroes are doing, all right, all of the crime that Jake commit is against each other. Meanwhile, a so-called white man has attempted genocide on multiple occasions against multiple nations of people while calling everybody else a savage and a terrorist. All right, this is Job 20. And I'm going to jump down to verse 5. And it reads, I'll start at 4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? All right, because ultimately these Edomites are hypocrites, man. All right, when you think about the news, CNN and Fox News, and, even when you deal with guys like Tucker Carlson, when they was on Fox News, it was basically them pointing the finger at every other nation like these are terrorists, these are bad people, while single-handedly as a nation of people committing most of the evil in recent times as a nation of people. Multiple attempts of genocide, man. Not just against Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. Imperialism, colonization. The crimes committed for Esau, the so-called white man, to become who he is. And now in 2025, he's propped himself up as the judge. This is why the scriptures say this in Job, the 9th chapter. All right, Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And that main judge is Yahweh Shai. But why did Esau do that? He did that to basically absolve himself of crimes and then prop himself up as the judge. This is why, brothers talk about Christianity basically being Edomite supremacy, because under the banner of Christianity, the so-called white man gets to walk away without being punished for what he's done as a nation of people. When the scriptures say the Lord is not mocked, what you sow, you shall reap. And that's not just against a man personally. That's also against nations of people. Egypt was a perfect example of that. All right. When the Lord took the firstborn, he didn't just take the firstborn of Pharaoh. He took the firstborn of every Egyptian, not just the decision makers. All right. So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is going to be punished as a nation of people for their crimes as a collective. All right. This is Wisdom of Solomon 18 and 11. The master and the servant were punished after one manner, and like as the king, so suffered the common person. So they all together had innumerable dead with one kind of death. Neither were the living sufficient to bury them, for in one moment the noblest offspring of them was destroyed. All right. So watching what the Lord did to Egypt and knowing what the Lord did to Egypt, it sets a precedent. Because what did the Lord refer to Esau, Edom as? The border of wickedness. All right. And the people of the Lord's curse. And we're going to get both of those. All right, let's get this one first. This is Isaiah 34. And I'll start at verse 5. And it reads, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. All right. And the sword being bathed in heaven is talking about bathed in this, when the missiles go up, they go up into that atmosphere. All right. It says, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. All right. Because again, Esau, Edom. All right. Idumea is another way. It's a Greek way of saying Edom. And it says upon the people of my curse to judgment. So the Edomites are the cursed people. We're under the curses, but we're not a cursed people. Esau, Edom is considered a cursed the people of the Lord's curse. All right. This is Malachi 1 and 4. And it reads, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. And you notice it says plural. They shall call them, because a lot of Christian scholars will say Esau the man or Edom the man. But it's the Lord is talking to them as a nation of people. And it says, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. And now, beginning with our apostles and elders, Esau, Edom is being revealed in the scriptures to be the so-called white man. All right. But they carefully crafted these lies of being American and German and Australian so that they could separate all those crimes. Because if you took that veil off and just said Edom, all right, or the so-called white man as he's known today, and you take away all of those locations, and you put all their crimes in one place, it becomes obvious that this is the wicked. They've dealt treacherously with every nation that they've encountered. They have a reputation of breaking treaties, of breaking truces, of attacking those who have been at peace with them. Like this guy Sink from Young Turks mentioned what they did to Jake, man. And one thing that they never put into the history books is how they used to cannibalize Jake. They used to eat so-called Negro slaves as a delicacy. All right. That book, The Delectable Negro, goes into that in detail. How Nat Turner was basically turned into a delicacy after he was put to death. And rightfully so, he said they are savages. All right. Now, we know in the scriptures, these are the people that the Lord hath indignation forever. If not, where and who are they? And that's one thing Christians don't want to deal with. Who is Edom on the earth today? All these judgments the Lord got proclaimed for Edom. Who is this? Who is this in the world today? We know who it is through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. But when you ask these Christians, they don't have an answer. They'll say it's not the so-called white man, but then they can't tell you who it actually is. All right, but we know that that's who it is. It's the so-called white man. All right, this is Obadiah. And I'm going to jump down to verse 9, and it reads, "And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever." And that is the judgment for the so-called white man as a nation of people, for what they've done as the so-called Greeks, the so-called Romans, and now the revived Roman Empire, which people will call the West. All right. But the Russians are also considered, they're also Edomites, even though they're in the East and they're against the West. But the Lord has proclaimed a judgment against the nation of Edom as a whole, that they'll be cut off forever. So identifying Esau Edom is extremely important. And when I saw this clip earlier today at work, that's what it reminded me of through the spirit. How Esau Edom, the so-called white man, was let loose to deceive the nations. And he successfully deceived them. When you go into Revelation, the 20th chapter, it didn't say that he would try to deceive the nations. It said that he would deceive them. And he did that successfully. You think about all these years, even brothers before we got in the truth. You know, we never sat back and looked at the so-called white man as a nation of people like, damn, this is the villain of the movie. And now it's being revealed because Esau Edom was able to successfully go to the four corners of the earth and deceive the people. First, he used the image of Jesus Christos. All right. The image of so-called white Jesus to basically deify himself. And now he separated himself by location. All right, to spread out his crimes against humanity. Well, now the wicked is being revealed by the mouth of the Lord. All right, beginning with the elders and apostles who are proclaiming this truth and putting all their crimes in one place and saying that according to the scriptures, you're Esau Edom. Because right now the whole world is pointing the finger at the Americans and the Israelis, but they're both Edomites. But the British are Edomites too. The French are Edomites, and what they did to Africa, and they're still doing to Africa. The Lord requires that too, man. And the joy and the triumphing of the hypocrite is cut off. It's going to be cut off short, man. And that's why the Lord said he's going to make Esau bare. And that means he's being exposed. All right. You're not the good guy of the movie, contrary to what you're telling people and putting out here in the news. Guys like Elon Musk on X, pushing himself out there as if he's how shall I say this, a righteous judge, or he's a guy of integrity trying to help. You know, recently he was doing posts on the South Africans, all right, the Hamites, basically how they were kicking out those so-called white farmers off of the land that they stole. And he was pointing the finger like they the bad guy for taking back land that was stolen from them during apartheid. This is the joy of the hypocrite, man. The savage who did all of these crimes to become the nation that they've become is now in the judgment seat pointing the finger at everybody else. And it's not like he did all of these crimes and stopped. He's still doing it. All right, let's go here. This is Isaiah 32. And I'm going to get this in the NLT. This is Isaiah 32:5 in the NLT. In that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes. Scoundrels will not be respected. All right. And that's what's happening through the spirit. The shaking of the hand is going to lead these people to go to the gates of the nobles. Because all of their efforts to do critical race theory and all of these efforts to basically sanitize the truth, all right, is being confounded with the scriptures. Those strongholds are being pulled down. Those imaginations are being cast down. The so-called white man has propped himself up as the good guy, as the noble one. Well, the scriptures say that scoundrels will not be respected and the ungodly fools will not be heroes. Because what they did to become a nation of people They were scoundrels. You know, like this guy Sink said, they were savages. You know, gang raping our women, taking a child and selling them across the country to the next state or to the next plantation over, setting up breeding farms, just picking some random Jake that they catch and hanging them and showing up 2,000, 3,000 deep to eat food and enjoy the show. That's a nation of scoundrels, man. And in 2025, now they trying to erase it and sanitize it and call it critical race theory because it teaches minorities to think of themselves as victims. It's the truth. This is what happened. That's why scriptures talk about this, the shameful spewing on our glory. You've propped yourself up as the hero of the movie, and now you're being confounded with your own history. You know, what Esau said about Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, he slandered us. He went around the whole earth and said Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are criminals. They're base men, while he himself is the criminal and the base man. All right, that is the definition of a hypocrite. All right, this is Habakkuk chapter 2 and 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. And this is why Esau is going to have to take this word off the mainstream. And that's going to open up famine of the word, because he really has no argument against what the scriptures are saying and his own history. When you combine his history with the scriptures, it's easy to see that this is the son of perdition. It's easy to see that these are the Edomites. This is why he's going to have to remove this, because now he's filled with shame instead of glory. That narrative, that propaganda of him being the hero and civilizing savages, that narrative is being destroyed, man. Even with people outside the truth, the scriptures say that their own tongue shall fall upon themselves. You know, you can't argue with the history you were so proud to brag about at one point. Now it's coming back to bite them in the ass. And now they're saying, look, we got to do critical race theory and bury this. Well, you can't bury it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. All right, it's Habakkuk 2 and 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. You know, I was meditating on this earlier. You know, I had a chance to watch the recap of a halftime show. And really, you know, Kendrick Lamar, you know, you take it for what it is. You know, these are just entertainers and musicians. They all really bought and sold. But his whole set was really like a protest, if you will, of Babylon the Great. You know, he had Samuel L. Jackson play Uncle Sam, you know, and throughout the entire halftime show, he was basically having him as Uncle Sam saying, look, y'all got to tame this. Y'all got to civilize yourself. Y'all don't, you know, they don't like stuff like this. You know, so he was basically mocking them in their face. And that's really shameful spewing on thy glory. Because a lot of these Edomites, especially them old ass Edomites, they love watching the Super Bowl. And they had to sit there and watch their shameful spewing on what they glorify. You know, you think about, they got Trump. He was at the game, and whatever the case may be, they done voted Trump in. So now in their mind that they're going to make America great again. And there's shameful spewing everywhere they turn. That's why a lot of those Edomites said it was the worst Super Bowl performance ever. And it was, you know, it was bad. But the symbolism through the spirit was, you know, I took from the spirit, you know, just speaking as a man, that was another part of that shameful spewing. Because, again, he was basically making mockery of Babylon the Great, which is America. You know, at one point he had the flag split. All right. And really, it's the atmosphere. That's the atmosphere in the earth right now through the spirit. The so-called white man is being called out for his crimes. And it's only really happening through the spirit, beginning with our apostles and elders. Because even when you watch mainstream news that go against the so-called white man, or the alternative news that go against the so-called white man, they'll say the West or the Americans. No, it's the Edomites as a nation of people. Not just the Americans. The French, they did their dirt too. The British did their dirt too. And the Lord requires that which is past, man. All right. And that's why the scriptures say that the Lord have indignation forever against a particular nation of people. And when you look at their crimes, it's obvious. It's obvious why the Lord feel like that, man. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying with that. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory. You know what? Let me end it with this. And it's so hypocritical, man. We supposed to just ignore the fact that you did what you did to us as a nation of people. We not supposed to be upset about that. How y'all would grape our women. How y'all split up families. Even after that shit. You know, a Jake could get off work and be walking wrong place, right time, because ultimately it's judgment. But you would snatch up a Jake and just hang him because you had a rough day at work. Because a lot of Jake were being lynched by poor-ass Edomites. Broke-ass Edomites. They weren't living like they rich brethren, so they'd take it out on Jake. That's why we don't feel no type of way about you blue-collar Edomites getting persecuted by your own people. We're not supposed to be upset about that? Hanging the Jake, and then before he died, pulling him down so he can get a little bit of air just to cut the man ear off and to cut his private parts off and put him back up? Nah, man. The Lord requires that which is past, and Lord willing we be a part of that number. We want to see that. We want to see justice served through the spirit and power by Shemal Shah. And justice is going to be served when the Lord destroys Babylon the Great, which is America. This whole power structure the so-called white man has set up globally, the Lord's going to destroy it, man. And we welcome it. All right, this is 2 Esdras 6:27. For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared. All right, and now it's being declared through the Spirit. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying with that. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwat, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.